Hello everyone, this is Teripper, and today we are going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons. Like I said at the beginning of this week, not too many videos are going to pop out. Well, obviously, this is Friday, so this was kind of the last video of the week, but I wanted to do something before D&D, and I said it was going to come out Monday, but it's coming out today. Mouthful. So, what are we talking about today? So this is the second video I'm making about D&D only, and what I'm going to be talking about, for the most part, is what players can do to have a fun time playing D&D, and to have a more smooth experience, I should say. This is relevant to players of any experience level, whether you've been playing for decades or days, or not at all. If you are very new to Dungeons and Dragons, this could very well be quite applicable to your situation. We'll see. You'll learn something regardless. I'll just get right into it then. So what you're seeing right now is, once again, my map, Rostrum. There's the name in big text. And this is where my current campaign that I am DMing is taking place in. One of my two campaigns that I am DMing. So this will be in the background the whole time, and I'll be playing some ambient music because why the hell not? I think that makes things more fun. So, to begin, we are going to be talking about the various things that a player can do to make the game more fun and more fluid for themselves. And to start off, what you are going to want to do is get into the mindset of a player. And you may be thinking that that sounds very backwards, but quite on the contrary. When you play D&D, or at least when I play D&D and when my players play D&D, I like to get as much into the mindset of the character I'm playing as possible. For example, I'm currently playing a character who is basically attempting to be a social justice warrior, half-orc paladin. He's awesome. I love him. But I really have to get into that mindset, because I'm normally not the kind of person who's a social justice warrior. I don't like conflict, especially not politically charged conflict on that level. So, I have to get myself into that mindset, in a very, very aggressive, very reactive mindset. But in doing so, I have a much more fun time playing my character, and subsequently acting him out, acting his actions out, his interactions, and it's so much more fun. And whenever I see my players do this, whenever I see them stop thinking about the game in terms of being a game, whenever I see them stop thinking, oh man, Bijan's, I'm Bijan by the way, Teripper has put us in such a terrible situation, we're all gonna die. I like to see them get into the mindset of, oh my gosh, you guys, we're gonna die. We're gonna die. Getting into that mindset of danger and adventure, looking around every corner where you are the hero, being immersed in the story, is, I think, one of the greatest parts of being a player. And to make the most of that, you want to use your own independent thinking, your own independent creativity to play your character. And I'll delve a little bit more into what that means in just a little bit, but starting off very philosophically, I'd like to move into something a little more mechanical. So, a lot of players play D&D with the mindset that the DM is running the game. I need to make him happy and do what I think he wants me to do. Don't do that. That's not the case. Please, don't try to make your DMs happy unless you are trying to not be annoying. In which case, thank you so much. I would say, try to create a story, because at least the way I DM is that I provide the world for my players and they provide the story. And of course, when I say that, I don't mean I just give them a landscape. No, I give them NPCs. I give them tensions, conflicts, locations, monsters. But they make them into something bigger. A story, an adventure. Something great, something worth telling stories about in the future. And now I'm on a soapbox. So let's move on a little bit. The basic takeaway point for that is, don't try to make your DM happy. Don't do what the DM wants, or what you think the DM wants. Obviously, do what the DM wants most of the time. If he asks you to stop, scribbling around while you're playing the game, don't do that. But don't do what they want. Do what your character wants. Try to keep that in mind whenever you're doing something. And a corollary to this that I can say is that the only time you should ever be doing what a DM wants outright is if they're railroading you. And in that case, I would either say, stick with it if you're having fun. If you're not having fun, get out now. Anyway, on to the next point of business, and that is, know what your character is doing at all times, and know why your character is doing it before he does it. And I say at all times, I don't really mean, oh, I gotta tell the DM when I piss now, or when I take a poop. No, you don't have to do that. I never have that in my games. What I do mean is your character should never do things arbitrarily. You should never walk past a beggar and just throw him money. Why? Why would you do that in real life? Would you just walk past a hobo and hand him your money? I'm the kind of person that only if I had, like, serious spare change on me would I do that. You may think I'm a terrible person, but isn't that most of us? Most of us aren't terrible people. But you get what I'm saying. Your character needs a motive at all times. This is why one of the questions I ask my players as a DM always when starting off games is, what does your character want? What motivates him or her? That sort of thing. I feel that that gives the player a very good way of rationalizing the decisions they make. And once again, I suggest that you think of why you do something before you do it. So you shouldn't have to rationalize things after you do it. You should have reasons that you want to do it. For example, my social justice warrior half-orc came into a tavern run by an orc bartender. And he was being talked down to by a dwarf monster hunter. Obviously, a monster hunter is going to have problems with a full-bred orc running a tavern. I got between them and was like, hey, mind your own business. It was a lot more like, hey, what do you think you're doing? My orc voice is very guttural. And that's the sort of thing that your character should be looking out for. What you should be looking out for as a player. You should be looking for those opportunities to play to your character's motivations and his ideals and all of his various personality traits and quirks. Again, I could make a whole video about how to properly roleplay a character. Right now, this is more of an overview for how to be a better player. Next is a very mechanical thing, which is making sure that you have all of your equipment, spells, attacks, and what have you else, coinage, all of your various class abilities and racial abilities. You have all of that written down somewhere, okay? You don't have to know it by heart. Heck, I don't know 25% of the player's handbook by heart, but I know where to find it very quickly. And I'll show you right now some of my players' character sheets. Elia is a fantastic player. He has a really big description on his bio page. He's got a very well laid out player character sheet. He has his basic cleric abilities right here. He's got some racial abilities. And he also has all his spells, and I'll show you a very easy way to get those spells inputted, actually right now. And by the way, this is all assuming you guys are playing in Roll20. I'd highly recommend, if you're new, you play with Roll20 to start with, and I'll show you how to get started with a group. Or, if you're experienced, you at least give it a try if you haven't yet. So, the cool spell thing, I didn't know this when I started with Roll20. I only learned it a couple months ago, and I've been playing D&D 5e on Roll20 for about a year now, almost. So, I'm going to pull open my test sheet. And just a quick side note thing here. We're going to go to spells. This is for all spellcasters. If you're starting in Roll20, just a little thing. If you want to add spells very easily without headache, I want you need to be in Roll20. Go to the 5th edition SRD. It's this little eye with a circle around it in the top right-hand corner. Click in the text box and type in a spell. I'm going to type in Bane. It's a very simple cleric spell. It is level 1. And just make sure it's the level you think it is by clicking it easily. And yep, it is level 1. So exit out of that. And quite easily, make sure you have this screen open so it shows all the text boxes like you're about to write into it. Don't write into it, though. Go over here, click drag Bane over here, and magic, bitches. Literally, spells, magic. It's fantastic. I highly recommend, if you don't know about that, you get to getting your players on that immediately. Or if you are a player, this is a really easy way to get your spells in. Anyway, the moral of the story is, make sure that you know what your character has on him, is capable of, and what he wants. However, right now we're just focusing on what he has on him. If you think you have 400 gold on you, but you only have 300, I thought he had 40, I only have 300 gold, well, you better make sure that you have that number written down, because I, as a DM, hate hearing, all right, I want to buy that plate mail. Okay, the dwarf tells you it's going to cost you 1,500 gold. And he says, okay, all right. I hand him 1,500 gold. And I'm like, all right, cool. Where'd you get all that money again? I don't usually do this to my players, but it's a good example. And they're like, oh man, I don't remember. Guys, was it that Coven of Night Hags? Yeah, I think it was. And then I'm like, oh, Got it. Nice. I, as a DM, am very nice about this sort of thing. I actually have a treasure log for my players where I write all the treasure down that I give them in here. But anyway, that is just a cute little thing in the spells that I showed you guys, and something to keep in mind when you are a player in Roll20 specifically, and in all physical games as well. If you have all your stuff before you, if you know all your spells, if you're playing the game physically, I would keep the spells on spell cards, little index cards that you can write down some basics about your spells, or use an app on your phone. iPhone or Android both have very good 5th edition reference apps with, I believe, the entire spell list. Could be wrong about that. I'll link those if there's interest. Anyway, that was another very solid point having to do with mostly organizational stuff. And organization is a humongous time saver in D&D games. Once someone starts looking for a rule or looking for a spell, the atmosphere begins to deteriorate in the room. Ergo, the game starts to slow down and down until it's stale. And then everyone's just kind of chatting about completely unrelated stuff, and the DM is trying to find a way to get back into the game. I haven't had this happen often, but when it does happen, it's very frustrating. So, as a player, I would really appreciate if all players would just have all of their character stuff written down on their character sheet. So at least they know where to find the information if they don't know it off the top of their head. All right, I've beaten that horse quite enough. Let's go to the next point, which is actually the last major point. This was not meant to be a very long video, but if you guys want any elaboration on any of the things I've talked about, you can go ahead and leave a comment. The last point I would like to mention is how to get into a game and how to know whether a DM is for you. Now, this is going to be a very subjective part of this video, but I'm going to do my best to try to make it as generalizable as possible. So first of all, we're going to go over to the Looking for Group page. This is at roll20.net. If you go to the homepage of Roll20, quite easily just go to Games, find a group right here on the left side, and it'll take you to this nifty page where there's very little information right here, but if you click Advanced Search, oh my goodness gracious, they have the times that a game will be running, the language it will be running in. So I'm just going to type in stuff as though I'm looking for a game. You probably want a voice-only game, role-playing, Dungeons and Dragons, okay, D&D 5th edition. I want to play once a week. I would highly recommend you guys look for, okay, that's not once a week. Weekly is once a week. Once means it's a one-off game. You really want to play in a game that plays at least once a week. Unless you're really low on time and you have a full-time job, then obviously you got to work with what you got to work with. But I find that once a week works the best. Or even twice a week. But twice a week can get to be a bit much for most people. Anyway. And then we're going to see Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You can even sort by time, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We are going to find games on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And there's going to be a massive list of games that goes on for 2 pages. And it goes on for 2 pages because I've made some very specific tick marks once a week, 3 days a week. And these are all games that are open and recruiting. People have to close the game when it stopped recruiting. So let's just take a look through. New game for new people. Just going to check this one out right quick. Total players needed are 4. They're going to have some nice little information. The first game they have scheduled is 3 weeks from now. I generally don't pay too much heed to that. A lot of games that I end up posting up here start as soon as I've got the full player count. They need 2 more players and 1 DM. So okay, this is an instance of a player looking for other players and a DM. And this is something that players will end up doing, that you can do as a player, in fact. But I wouldn't recommend it. I recommend just looking for a game that sort of kind of looks cool to you. So, let's see. Lost Mine of Phandelver. Ooh. So this is a pre-written adventure for 5th edition D&D. And I'd highly recommend you guys look for games that are using, I guess, pre-written adventures, because these will generally be the easiest to play and to get into. They have the most content, unless you're working with a very experienced DM. I would say that my games don't have as much content as this, because this game, it's very orchestrated, very laid out, but it's very fun. So I've heard. So we're going to scroll down. We got a little description here, and if there's even just a little bit of writing, don't get distraught, because the DM is probably too busy writing the actual story of the game to really give too much heed to this area here. For centuries, rumors of buried riches have attracted treasure seekers and opportunists to the area around Phandalin, but no one has ever succeeded in locating the lost mine. It's a really cool looking adventure. I love it. I would totally join it if I were a new player. Steel Soul, this looks kind of wonky. Long description. It looks like a very custom campaign setting, custom adventure. As a new player, I might be a little bit wary of these because they might not be as open to new players. However, there is an option that says new players are welcome. And you can actually sort by this in the Looking For group. Only find games that welcome new players. Let me check that off, actually. But don't be dissuaded just because it's got a lot of text. You know, if you're not the kind of person that really cares to read a massive bit of backstory, don't worry about it. Go to another one. There's plenty of good games, plenty of good DMs. So, I'm just going to click on one more here. Find one with Dragon May Cry. Goodness gracious. Okay, this is interesting. So, this is an example of how not to make a Looking For game page. I would not be particularly interested in joining this guy's game. First of all, because 7 players is generally a big number. It can work, but I've never seen it work. I've actually never personally been in a game that was more than 6 players, I believe. But I have seen 7-player games, and it's, well, it can get a bit chaotic. If you guys have seen Critical Role, that's a game that normally has 8 people in it. However, it only works because they are all really good friends, and Matt Mercer is an incredible game master. So, this is the kind of game I would be very wary of. If it sparks your interest, if you happen to really like the Devil May Cry universe and Dungeons and Dragons, and you're interested in getting into it, go for it. Make it happen, Captain. Alright, we're going to stop looking at that for the time being. And, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I think I'm going to cut it short here. This has been an overview of how to sort of get started as a player, how to do all the right things that most experienced players take for granted. But if you're an experienced player, hopefully you learned a thing or two whilst watching this video as well. I thank you guys very much for watching, and as always, have a grand day.